are we prepared for all of these shifts? Now, a couple of years ago when I was getting ready for a different presentation, I asked my lovely husband, help me to figure out how to start this presentation, because it's always nice to just have a way to kind of lead in. And he said, why don't you go ahead and share the story of how when you were taking senior pictures of Brittany, you wet yourself. And I asked him, what in the world does that have to do with the presentation? He said, nothing, but it's funny.
You're gonna get somebody's attention.
And you get attention, that's right. And you know, it's relatable, is it not? When we have mishaps and they're embarrassing, we just have to roll with it. I was lucky no one else was in the park, oddly enough. I was able to scoot home, change my clothes, come back, and finish taking her senior pictures. But as I said, we all know that this is not really a fun topic. So I'm going to do my best to share some jokes throughout this, and hopefully they aren't too bad and you'll be able to catch on to the jokes. So you may feel overwhelmed because we're going to cover a lot. And how many of you may be actually feeling overwhelmed about preparing for the future already? So my goal is not to add to that, but just to sell you on the idea that we need to start preparing. And my goal is to do one a month. So if we continue this pace, at the end of a year, you will have all these things in place so that you can take a deep breath. I'm warning you that I may overwhelm you, but that's not my intention. You okay? And we're going to cover a lot of things today. I am going to be sharing a checklist with you later. If I hand it out now, you're going to be just overwhelmed at the checklist. So I'm going to bring it out when we're ready for it. And then hopefully we'll get you to prioritize and pick one thing to work on before you leave here today. And then, as I said, if we just work on this a little at a time, a year from now, you'll be prepared. And you can take a deep breath and start over. For a wedding, or a vacation. Supposed to keep moving forward. How long did you plan for that? A month?
Sometimes.
6 months?
Sometimes.
Okay. Depending on the thing, right? If it's just a quick little trip, it's going to be less, but if it's a big long trip, you're going to spend more time. But yet, this trip and this journey that we're all on of getting older, no matter what age we are all getting older. We fail sometimes to plan for them. Sometimes we can't plan for things. A good example of that is April 19th, 1992. I'm driving along, I'm leaving work, I'm on my way to pick up my daughter from daycare. I look left, I look right. You know where this is going, right? I look left again and get hit T-boned on my passenger side. The next thing I remember, still to this day, is my landlord is putting a collar on my neck. Well, my landlord was on the ambulance crew, but I didn't know it. But I can't remember anything other than her doing that. And then the next thing I remember, I'm feeling this, and I open my eyes, and I'm strapped down, I cannot move my head, and I get my eyes glanced over, it's my friend Skyla. So what happened? She said, you were in a car accident. And I said, did you call Mom? And she said, yes. She's on her way, her and your dad are on their way. When I was in my 20s, I could recover much easier. If that accident were to happen today, I may not recover as well, because all of this is a few years older. And unfortunately, we just don't heal like we used to when we're younger. I could not get dressed, and my mother had to wipe me after I went to the bathroom. And as a 23-year-old, that was really hard. But I also needed her because I couldn't take care of my young child either. If I didn't have her, I would have had to have strangers coming into my home to help me because I couldn't do it. I was taking 6 oxycodone at one time, and I was still in so much pain, I could not get in and out of bed without just screaming. My goal today is to help you plan to age in place with grace. And one of the ladies that I find so fascinating is Madame Jean Calment from Arles, France. Any guess? She is the oldest living documented person. Anyone want to guess how old she might be? If you know, don't say it. Anybody want to guess?
110?
Okay. Anybody else?
106.
Any other guesses?
113.
122 years and 238 days.
Wow. That's almost 120.
Yeah, so for some of us, that's 50, 60, even 70 years from now. That's a long time. Now, I'm not sharing this so you can have an excuse to keep putting this off, though. Oh, I got 50 more years.
Time.
Yeah, exactly. Now, she did have a really good sense of humor. When they were asking her, why do you think that you lived so long? She said, well, it took me till I was 110 to get famous, so I wanted to enjoy it as long as possible. And then the other thing that I found so relevant, she says, I see badly, I hear badly, I feel badly, but everything's fine. And how many of you know somebody that says, I'm fine, when they're clearly not fine? They're in a predicament. Yeah, and how many of you is it actually you that says you're fine when you're not? Sure. Yeah, because I know some of you. I'm the same way. It's hard. But my husband and I took that step. We signed our daughter up so that she is our power of attorney. We've got, financial things in place. So, we are doing these things that I'm telling you that you need to do. Life shifts on us sometimes. And I did say shift, although it sounds like another word. There are 3 main areas in life where those changes happen, either cognitively, financially, or physically. Now, how many of you have had what you would consider a big shift in one or more of these areas of life? Yeah, it's happened. And it'll probably happen again, because that's what life does to us, unfortunately. And I apologize, like I said, this is not a happy, fun topic. When we plan ahead, we can reduce stress, we can reduce conflict, and we can even reduce the cost. When you have things planned, it reduces that stress because you're not scrambling, you're trying to figure things out last minute. You can say, we've got a plan, and here's what it is. It may not go the way you planned it, but at least you've got something in place so that you've got a direction to go. And it reduces conflict because those that are involved in maybe helping making decisions will know what you want. And if you can get it documented, that's even better. Well, how does it reduce cost? Well, let's say that you are in the emergency room and they're bringing you this piece of paper that says, here, pick these places. And maybe you don't have the right insurance coverage, or maybe Medicare isn't covering for whatever reason. Usually they do. But what if you end up in a place that costs more money than you could have gotten something a little bit less expensive if you had checked things out ahead of time? So last minute decisions can sometimes end up costing a lot more money. Cognitive shifts that we see are either going to be that just normal aging, or of course, the cognitive decline of Alzheimer's and dementia and all that falls underneath that. Now, if I got into all the details about Alzheimer's and dementia, we would be here a lot longer than we were planning for. I'm gonna save that to dive into that on one of these other subsequent meetings that we have, so that we can get a little more understanding of that. But what you can do to prepare is you can learn the warning signs of Alzheimer's and dementia. You can get in touch with the Alzheimer's Association, go to some of their events, watch some of their things online. Just get familiar, because it might be a friend that hey, we're gonna meet for lunch, and then they're not showing up for lunch. Well, what happened? Are they starting to have some decline? Now, the other thing that I wanna make everybody aware of, not everybody knows this, sometimes when there is a sudden decline, and sometimes it can be gradual also, but a sudden decline can sometimes mean a urinary tract infection. That does not show the typical signs that we expect, like burning when we're urinating. They can show increased confusion and increased falls, but yet they have no, quote, urinary symptoms. So put that one in your back pocket, that if you see that in a friend or even in yourself, go get your urine checked.
And is that true for men as well?
Yeah, actually it is. Yeah, surprisingly. The other thing is that also too, like maybe your electrolytes are out of balance, your sodium levels, your potassium levels. Those can cause increase in confusion too, and physical symptoms as well, which again, we aren't gonna get into all those details. But again, put that in your back pocket, and if you go to the doctor and they say, oh no, but we aren't gonna test that because you don't have the signs, push them to do it anyway. Because a lot of doctors will argue with you and say, it can't be a UTI. It's like, prove me wrong then. Yeah. And make sure that they do the culture, let that grow for a while to make sure there isn't something there that they didn't see just with that initial test. Yeah. Any questions, comments, things anybody wants to share?
I've heard of medication, interactions that sometimes have caused something like that too.
Oh, good point. Yes, medication errors and yeah, like pain medications. I did things when I was taking that oxycodone that I don't remember. One of them was my phone bill. I got my phone bill and it was like $200. Remember back when you got a phone bill?
Yeah.
And I said to Mom, what is going on? She said, you don't remember making all those phone calls? I said, no, I don't. So it can really mess with your mind. Yes, ma'am.
I was also thinking the woman that I took care of, we got ahead and, planned her like cremation and things at Brings Funeral Home. And then when I went in there at a later time for someone else, the prices had skyrocketed. So that would be another example of saving money, getting
Thank you.
ahead of.
Thank you.
'Cause
Like a
again,
prepaid burial.
Absolutely. So again, not fun to do, but
No.
less fun for your family to do. I've done it for me and my boyfriend. We just went in and we're like, oh, let's figure this out. But yeah, we're saving our kids money, I guess, someday.
Thank you. Yes, I appreciate that. Anybody else have any thoughts you want to share? I'm not the only expert here, You guys have your life experience, which makes all of you experts in your experience. So anybody that wants to share, I'm happy to hear that. The other thing that you can do if you have a partner, if they happen to be, now I'm guilty of this, I don't know login passwords for most things, but getting those login and passwords and knowing where all of these things are so that if something happens to that other person, you know where things are. I'm gonna share a little funny story. There's a husband and wife that went to the neurologist and he was told, yes, you do have the beginning of Alzheimer's. So he says to this gentleman, it's probably a good time for you, since I know that you kind of are handling everything, to make sure that you know that your wife is aware of where everything is at. And he said, oh, yeah, she knows exactly where I've got it, it's all up here. Not good planning, so it worked for them at that time.
Jan,
Yes, ma'am.
have you by any chance heard of a knockbox?
No,
Okay.
N-O-K. Okay.
It's for next of kin.
Next of, thank you,
Ah,
not me,
ah,
I'm
all
sorry,
right.
thank you so much, Kim. Yeah, thank you.
Gotcha.
It's next of kin,
Yeah.
and okay.
Then, okay, next of kin, thank you so much.
Would you run that through one more time?
Sure, N as in Nancy, O as in octopus, K as in kangaroo.
Or N as in next.
No, that's fine.
But Is there a 2 in there? Is there Next of kin.
Yeah, and okay.
N-O-K.
Done.
So for people, if they start to have these cognitive changes, they will not be able to make their own decisions about their own health care. Because at a certain point, especially if it becomes obvious, the doctor's gonna be going, this person can't make their own decisions because this isn't working anymore. So then they turn to the people around them and say, what do you want to do? And if you haven't had those conversations, then who knows what to do? Nobody. So then it's a guessing game. So the goal is get these conversations started, let your family know what you want, and even ask your family what they're gonna want. There's no guarantee that the parent is gonna pass before the child, so why not have those conversations work both ways? Think tools that you wanna put in place, and I'm gonna say this disclaimer, I can't give advice about this, this is not my area of expertise. My goal is to have someone come in that has expertise in this in one of these subsequent teachings, and will help know exactly what all this stuff is. But the durable power of attorney, healthcare power of attorney, living will, HIPAA release, the POLST, again, we won't go into detail. So the POLST is physician order for life-sustaining treatment. So do you want antibiotics? Do you want IV treatment?
I was gonna say, Table Council on Aging walked me through every one of those documents.
Nice. That's good. Good resource. HEMA Council on Aging.
Help with end-of-life documentation.
Wonderful. Yeah, because it can be very detailed. We've got the DNR form where it's the orange form. If your heart stops, do you want CPR or not? But then there's all that other stuff when you're in the hospital. Do you want an IV feeding? Do you want a tube down your throat to feed you? There's all these things that.
A respirator.
Respirator, yeah. Artificially kept alive if your brain is not. And I'm sure most of you remember Terry Schiavo and how that drug on for years because there was argument about what they should and shouldn't do. If it had been documented ahead of time, it wouldn't have drug out like it did. So,
And
yeah.
there's one more that might go on your list in the future because it's legal in Arizona. It's not legal in other states necessarily, but it's called a mental health power of attorney.
Yep.
And it has to do with being able to help that person recognize when there's a need for real commitment, shall we say, to a memory care facility. So.
Right. And that is a great lead-in for my next.
Oh.
Oh.
What was the last name of the POLST?
Yeah, so it's called a physician's order for life-sustaining treatment. And so I'm gonna just read this because I had a feeling somebody would ask and I would not have the answer. Medical order that documents a seriously ill person's wishes for emergency care such as CPR, hospitalization, antibiotics, or artificial nutrition. So it goes a step beyond just starting your heart now. Yeah, but it's for somebody that's seriously ill. It's not just for you and I as we're walking around day to day. It's a seriously ill person. So it's level of document. That's as much as I can share, because
But it
That's
sounds
all I
like FEMA Council on Aging can help you with these.
they are a good resource, so thank you for mentioning that. Okay. So I want to share a story about Tim and Janet. I've changed their names, and this is not their picture.
I recognize them anyway.
Oh, do you? It is a small world.
The reused photos of social media.
Oh, I suppose.
Sorry, I couldn't.
That's a good one. That's a good one. So Janet was already diagnosed with, we'll say, cognitive decline. And if I don't want to share too many details. Tim, however, and Janet were both aware of this. But Tim, as his cognitive decline got worse, was in denial. She was his power of attorney, he was her power of attorney. Nobody else was named. So now what? He's making decisions for her, and he can barely make a decision himself. Like, this could have been so much worse.
Oh, yeah.
Because they didn't plan that, what if they both can't decide? And without having anybody else named, that really put them in a really bad situation. So think about that when you're looking at who you're putting as your power of attorney. Do you have an alternate just in case that doesn't quite work like you had hoped? Okay. The other big challenge with this couple is that their family was out of state, so they could not take over as what's the word, conservator or guardian, because you have to live in the state of Arizona, so their hands were tied too. And again, luckily they got moved into assisted living. So, but they could have stayed in their own home, and it could have been really bad. It was getting bad already. So anyway. Making sure, again, we'll just go through this little checklist, making sure you've got your power of attorney. Does somebody know where to find that power of attorney papers? Because if you're the only one that knows where they are, people are gonna be searching for this stuff, and it's gonna make it really challenging. Yes,
And
dear?
there's a difference between financial power of attorney and medical power of attorney.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
For sure. Actually, there's several different powers of attorney, and again, we'll save that for the expert that I'm gonna bring in, who I don't know who that is yet. But we'll make it happen, because this is all important stuff. And not only do they know where the paperwork is, are they strong enough to actually go through with it when you say, okay, in this circumstance, don't bring me back. I know of 2 incidents where both were moms, and mom had signed the form saying, I don't want to be brought back. They're taken into the to surgery, 2 separate, completely separate, but it's very similar. Taken into surgery. The surgeon comes out and is like, okay, this is your last chance. I know she said that she doesn't want to be brought back, but it's up to you now, because she can't decide for herself, so you can decide, should we bring her back? Okay, let's do it. Anybody want to guess how mom felt about that?
Angry.
Pissed. Like they both were pissed. One lived a few months, the other one just lived only 2 more days, and in not a good situation. So if your family says, don't bring me back, honor that. And when you're choosing that person, choose the person that has the strength that they're going to just follow through with it, no matter how heartbroken they might be in losing you. Because it does take a really strong
It's
person.
interesting, because I was really sick, and I was in that situation where my sister, was the one, and they do come, right there, I said.
Right, like you obviously made it clear, so why were they doing that?
Yeah.
It happens a lot more than we would hope. A couple of years ago, I had a client that did not want a surgery. She did not have family, but she had us, thankfully, in there with her, advocating for her, because 3 times somebody came in and was like, okay, we're getting you ready for surgery, and she'd look at me, and I'd like look at them, and I'd look at her, and she goes, okay, she told you guys she doesn't want the surgery, where's the disconnect? And, you know, they'll just whisk people off, and then it got so bad, the surgeon even came in. My parents passed over 20 years ago, but when his mom got sick suddenly, she was in the hospital trying to decide, do I get treatment or do I just stay comfortable? And she could not decide, and the doctors were saying, will you let your son decide for you? No, she couldn't let him decide. And the doctor's finally saying to her, if you don't make a decision, time will make the decision for you, because beyond a certain point, treatment will no longer be an option because you're just waiting so long. And I mean, she was just in so much anguish. If she had taken the time to think about it and talk about it, and if we had been smart enough to talk about it before this happened, we would have been able to go, remember, this is what you wanted, you know, instead of just, we don't know. You know, it puts everybody in a really tough situation when those conversations have not happened. So those physical shifts that can happen, right? A fall with an injury, I mean, that good old hip fracture, which none of us, we're gonna erase that. We don't want that happening. We don't want any of this happening. Stroke, heart attack, medication errors, a cancer diagnosis, all of these things and just, let's face it, the aging process itself is just happening. So these are things that can happen, that can be that big shift, that if we think about, what if I fall and break my hip? Will I want surgery, or will I at that point just say, you know what, maybe this is the thing that I'm gonna let take me? I don't know. And it's different for everyone. Not everyone's comfortable with the idea of death. Me, whatever. I mean, we're here, we're not here. I don't get too worked up about it, but not everybody's that comfortable with the death talk.
Just bring something up.
Yeah.
My dad lived till 99 and almost a half.
Yay!
He needed
Was
a
he-
hip,
Okay.
and he didn't get it replaced, and then by the time he wanted it replaced, they said, you're too old, we're not gonna put you under. So he was mad.
Oh, okay.
So
See?
like,
Mm-hmm.
you don't know,
Yeah.
but
Right.
think, just know that people they can say, to find out, okay, I might need it or whatever, it's a possibility.
Mm-hmm.
Am I gonna age out of this? Are you gonna finally say to me one day, well, now, we don't do this when you're 85 anymore, or when you're 90, or
Right.
95, I don't know.
Yeah, did he have a lot of health issues besides?
He had a lot of heart stuff,
Oh,
but
that's
I
fine.
mean,
Yeah. Because I had a client in their 90s that fell and broke their hip, and boom, surgery, and she was fine and kept on going.
yeah, it was probably all the heart stuff, yeah.
Yeah. Right, because and she was 92, I believe, so, if other things are healthy enough, they might take that chance too, you just never know.
Yeah.
So one of the things, if you end up in the emergency room, or they're calling it the emergency department now, which when they say ED, I hope you can handle this joke. ED is also short for erectile dysfunction. Can't we just call it the emergency room? Oh, let's just call it the ER, emotionally disturbed, she said, ED. Yeah. So if that happens, are you ready? Do you have your documents in order? Now I'm gonna do a plug for a friend of a few of us in here. It is a 911 grab and go bag. You can fill out this form online, and it's got two sides. It's got even information about, do you have a pet, and who's gonna take care of the pet if you end up in the hospital. I'll pass this around. It's got a little thing so that when you need to run out, you can slide it on your arm, and you're not gonna, but this is just for documents. This isn't like the emergency, like there's a fire on the hill kind of thing. So it's just going to the
So a lot of
hospital.
times when you're at home, if you leave that like on your counter or the refrigerator or something, if an emergency person has to come in, they have something to
And they
find.
can see it, I mean, that's
And-
pretty obvious
Yeah,
what that is.
they have something to find to be able to know whether you have medical allergies and if you're diabetic and if, you know, if there's other life-threatening things that they need to know right away besides the fact that you're unconscious on the floor.
Yep, so, she
It's
said,
just for documents, I thought it was for everything. but
Well, I mean,
guess
if,
it
you know-
wouldn't all fit.
it's not gonna all fit, yeah, so it's pretty much designed for the documents. Your power of attorney, your do not resuscitate order if you've got one, you know, any of those documents, so. Pass this around, she's selling them for, I think, $20.
I
I've
have
got a
two,
few.
I have
And
two,
Barb's got two, one for
And-
you.
And I've got one.
and I can't find one,
Uh-oh,
and I've
Is
done
it-
nothing with it yet, but I'm
is
going
it, maybe it's still in the plastic bag. She puts them in a plastic bag, so if you wanna mail it to somebody that you love, you can do that too.
Okay,
So, anyway.
That might even be a good thing to have in your car in case you're in
Yes.
a car accident.
Absolutely, yep. So just kind of getting in the habit, you know, you bring your purse along, maybe bring this along too, so. And if you don't wanna buy one of these, you can always just get yourself a bag and put stuff in it, and then maybe do like a marker or something, you know, emergency bag or something. But I thought this was born out of necessity because Nancy was in a situation where she didn't have the documents when she needed them. And so she came up with this, and it's a great idea. I just brought this lovely orange sheet of paper because some people decide that they do not want their heart to be restarted if their heart stops in an emergency. Now, if you have, it's called a do not resuscitate. Your doctor has to sign it, you also have to get a witness to sign it. But this orange sheet has to be on the refrigerator. If it's not orange, it does not count. So it has to be orange, and, yeah,
So it can't be like a photocopy of one or something.
Right.
It has to be
Yeah.
it
original.
has to be orange to be official. It's like, if you went to this much effort, you must mean it.
Yeah. So,
My friend used to put hers in the freezer in case she was feeling good that day.
Oh, I see. Sure. Yeah, because if they can't find it, they have to, even,
Then she'll put it out in the refrigerator, I think I'm ready.
that's all. Let's try again. Yes. Yeah, that is for emergencies in the community, and then you go in the hospital and it's a whole new ballgame. And you get to change your mind. Just because you have one of those at home, you might get to the hospital and decide, you know what, it's not that bad after all, maybe let's hang on a little bit longer. So, you know, you can always change your mind. That's the good news. And you can hide it in the freezer.
Right.
On any given day you don't wanna give up. The other thing is if you end up in the hospital, they change your medications. How many of you or someone you know has been in the hospital and confusion, all of a sudden, like you have no idea what's going on? I know some hands should be up. Yeah, it's just that you're in this environment, you're not getting sleep, everything's a mess, they're changing your meds, and your mind is like, who am I? And so there's that increased confusion. Then you gotta make decisions about, am I gonna go home? Am I gonna go to skilled nursing? Am I gonna go to hospice, if that's where things are at, or a rehab? And then they come with this printout that's this thing saying, pick the top 3. And you're going, I don't know any of these, how do I pick the top 3? So then you're stuck going to whatever rehab has an opening and will take you, the top 3 facilities that you wanna pick. Because then they will make the call and say, do you have an opening or not?
when I went to rehab, I didn't feel like I had a choice.
They didn't, oh.
I don't remember, of course, I had Oxycontin and I was absolutely bonkers, but, you know, I mean, I don't remember, suddenly I'm on the way to the rehab.
They are supposed to be giving you a choice, unless there is no other absolute opening.
Huh.
And also, It also depends on your insurance.
Oh, yeah,
It's
Oh,
not just your choice.
that's true.
Yeah.
oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Insurance could make a difference.
Well,
Most places Medicare is going to cover, but if you end up being there longer, Medicare says, nope, you've gotta go, and you can't even stand up yet. You also can appeal. Nobody shares that with you, that you can do an appeal, and, correct me if I'm wrong, but during that appeal process, let's say you run out and you're there 5 days before they make a decision, you don't have to pay for those 5 days if you've done that appeal process.
right.
They, specifically said, just so you know, you can appeal and get an extension if you feel like you need more time to stay in the hospital. Yes, they did inform us of that.
Cool. I just realized I've got 7 minutes, so I've either been talking too much or too slow. I don't know. Imagine if you were in the hospital and you go, oh yeah, we've talked about all this. We've already looked up the skilled nursing facilities. We've visited the skilled nursing facilities. We know which one we want to go to. What a difference that makes. Or when you go home, you can say, oh yeah, I've already interviewed some home care companies. I've checked with my insurance. I know which ones are covered, and this is what we're gonna do. What a different story than that scrambling and, oh my gosh, what are we gonna do?
Or
Yeah.
meeting with somebody and just getting questions answered and getting some clarity on things that you have questions about. But any of those are really good choices.
Yeah. The preparation and the planning and having these conversations is just the biggest thing. But I just wanted to give you guys a reality check here. I believe it's 70% of people will need some sort of care as they get older. If you're looking at, you want to stay in your home as long as possible, I put that at the very bottom, but that could cost, now this is a monthly cost, this is not a year, $20,000 to $30,000 a month to have a company like me come in 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Now, I'm not trying to tell you that to discourage you, I just want you to know the reality. But you also have one caregiver taking care of you that 24 hours or 12 hours each shift, we'll say. Now, if you were to go into like a small home where there's 10 to 12 people living and you've got 2 staff, you're gonna average 2 hours in a 12-hour period that you're gonna get attention. Because then they gotta run off and take care of you and help you in the bathroom, and then they've gotta go help you. And then you're calling because, hey, I gotta get to the bathroom, and you're like, hold on, I gotta go get this person. And then pretty soon, and then it's like, I gotta go check on this other person. And so the staff are really spread very thin in these facilities. And when they tell you, you've got 24-hour care, well, yes, there's a human being on the premises, but that doesn't mean that you have that individualized care. So this is why I want to help people stay in their own home as long as possible. Because that doesn't mean that just because we're there that you're not gonna fall either, because I might have to go to the bathroom, and while I'm in the bathroom, somebody gets up and they have a fall. I mean, so it's not foolproof. But when you've got that one-on-one care, now I can notice, hey, wait a minute, I think you might have a UTI because I'm seeing changes, but if I'm running around, I may not notice that that person's a little off and that we need to get something checked. So, pardon me, Molly?
This is really interesting, and you
Awesome.
never think about that kind of thing.
Right, they just look at, oh, well, it's only $10,000, but.
And the in-home care is not all or none. Like what you
Yeah.
guys do with A+ elder care, it's not around the clock, 24 hours, 7 days a week.
Right.
It's chunks of time.
Sure, we
Depending
might
on
only
your
know.
champion.
Yeah, it can be, it can build up to where it ends up
Right.
being
Yeah.
that, but most people only start out with a couple hours, sometimes even a couple hours a week,
Right.
and stuff and build up. And as well as, there are The smaller homes, the 10 to 12, I have found several that are more like the $5,000 range.
But they are,
Yeah,
okay.
5,000.
yeah.
Yeah.
And in the smaller homes compared to the larger ones that look like a hotel, you get better care because you do have, smaller ratio of people that, I mean, yes, she's saying though that, I mean, she is right, but it is higher level of care.
You're saying the smaller homes
Some.
are better.
The smaller homes are better if your care needs are higher. If you're needing more social and you want to get out and you're needing, you
Bingo,
know,
and art class.
and stuff, then the other ones obviously have a lot more going on. You know, they are.
Would you say if you're looking for like a cruise ship type environment, then you go to a big facility?
Yeah,
But if you're looking
especially
for
some of
like
the independent
family,
ones, you know, I mean, it's like,
family
yeah.
type, yeah, more
But-
close knit. Yeah. Just wanted to quick touch on, again, we're gonna go diving deep into all of these as we progress. A living trust, transfer on death or pay on death, updating your beneficiaries, make sure your documents are organized, make sure that there's clear instructions on how to pay bills. I mean, back when we were younger, the bill came in the mail and you're like, oh gosh, I better pay that. But now it's all just on the bank, on the computer, and it's so foreign and it feels like it's out there somewhere. And your head starts to spin because you're like, oh my gosh, what do we need to pay? What don't we need to pay? So having those listed is a good thing so that you can keep it straight. And if there's any way that you can avoid probate, of course, do that, because that can just be a big nightmare. So what are things that people have done to avoid this shock? Some people have to sell their house. Some people do a reverse mortgage. I'm not, saying that you should do any of these, but these are just some things that people will do. Selling other assets, or what else? Donating plasma? I don't know, just.
Look at that, oh, Sherry.
Yes.
Look
Yeah.
at that.
So another thing that I want people to consider is that when you're doing okay, could you possibly share your own home with someone that maybe is needing housing? You can have someone, maybe they're gonna cook for you, but then you're providing them a place to live. So consider home sharing. That's how I met these two lovely ladies,
And I'm an experienced home sharer, and I'd be happy to talk with anyone about it.
yes. I don't know if you guys ever heard of Tucson Home Share. She was one of the people that did that first Tucson Home Share. It's now called Southern Arizona Home Share, and it's no longer a 501c3. It's just a group of people that really want to support this, so that there's no entity out there. So basically what this slide says is none of this stuff happens in a bubble. If you fall and get hurt, it's going to affect your finances. It's going to affect your cognition. There's all of these things that happen, but they don't happen in isolation. So you don't want, you want to look at the big picture. And I do have these, if you guys want to take one and pass it. This is that checklist that I was telling you that is going to look very overwhelming because it's 2 pages. It's a checklist of all these things. And if you want to take the time to get yourself started before you go ahead and maybe look at it and decide which one of these areas do I need to start working on? Like, what am I going to commit to work on so that when I come back a month from now, I can say, hey man, I got this done. Wouldn't that be cool? Okay? And we all have different places that we need to start.
If we get it done, do we get a prize?
Yes, you get to come back and be proud.
I mean, a cookie would be nice.
So my core message is that just like if you're planning a wedding and you don't plan ahead very well, you may end up with shoes you didn't want to wear. And
I've seen those, I think.
and your vacation might not be the most ideal place, and the water might not be so clear. So I invite you to come, we are going to do this again next month, and I think we have a date on the calendar, I'm gonna double check. But this is the list of the things that I want to cover, and again, it's just gonna be all of the things that are already in on that sheet.
Isn't it May?
Yeah, I wanna say the 19th,
I'll
is
look
it
at
that?
one for you too.
Stand by.
Your game out.
So, so I'm gonna give you a little, if you want, we can give you homework, but you don't have to, you can give yourself homework. If you wanna pick something to work on between now and next month. So when I was
Hang on.
yeah, I'm just gonna wrap it up here, and then you guys can go have a little snack if you want. And when I was in Toastmasters, they said that if you're gonna do a good presentation, you gotta start at the beginning, you share your information, then you pull it all back together from like where you started. So I decided I'm gonna give you a quote from Betty White that says,
We love her.
"Friendship is like peeing your pants. Everybody can see it, but only you can feel the warmth." Tying it all back together in my story. So thank you all for coming. I really appreciate being able to share this with you. And I do